Hey, good evening, y'all. I hope y'all are having a good evening, a good day. I know for me it's been a really nice day, and oh man, going to church, the church I attend, it's always so nourishing. My pastor, he's just, I don't know, he's very, um, God works through him a lot, and so it's really neat when he's given a message, and it's so solid the way he teaches, and it's really cool. I'm always fed spiritually, and it's really awesome. So I know a lot of times I like to jump on here and start out with that, how my day is and stuff, because one, it's real genuine when I do that, and then two, I do that to allow people to jump on here and check it out and stuff. So just giving y'all some time. That's all. So um, I hope y'all are doing well today, though. I know I'm doing really good. God's got some things that are happening in my life that are pretty cool. Some things are changing, and it's awesome. So Sundays, I like to take the day and let it be my Sabbath day, and I relax. And so I don't usually do this. I'm on my couch here. I'm not really, I like to be in my wheelchair a lot. Um, and so I have a couch that I don't really sit on too often. It's like, I have it for when people come over and stuff like that. So, but anyway, thought I'd switch it up tonight. What you see is me sitting on the couch. So, figured that'd be a really cool place to share my testimony, a very tranquil place, and um, hopefully I don't fall asleep on the couch. I don't think I will. Talking to you guys. Anyway, I really love doing this part of ministry, Ricky Speaks Life. This is probably one of my, outside of, you know, uh, the mission of Ricky Speaks Life. So, I, well, I guess this is part of the mission actually. Um, I love coming on here, talking to you guys. I would really like to talk in person to people. Um, I haven't booked any open speaking engagement yet, but well, not recently anyway. So it's been a while for that. So without further ado, let me jump right in and start out my the series that I've been going through is Suffering and Satisfaction series, and tonight is going to be me sharing my testimony. So, what I'm gonna do is just give you guys a heads up. Might be a little bit longer. I always try to get it to be, nowadays people have a short attention span. Me too. I'm included in that. So, I'm gonna try to keep it short and not super short though. But anyway, the heads up is I'm all over the place. Um, it might be longer. So, but yeah, so as I mentioned, I started the series, and tonight I'm telling you my testimony. And, if you're not really someone who's familiar with what that means, um, and you're not a Christian and or go to church or anything like that, oftentimes within the church, the Christian church, that word is used to describe that a person is going to tell their story or about their life um, before Christ, before accepting Christ or trusting Christ. Um, and so that's what that word typically means or is is implied when you hear Christians say, "Oh yeah, they're going to tell their testimony and stuff like that." But I have a unique way of describing it. It's not really like right or wrong or anything. It's just something I do. Um, I differentiate between my story and my testimony, simply because my testimony, I like to make it uh, uh, signify that that's my life after trusting Christ. So my testimony is that I've trusted Christ, and everything before that is just the way I was living outside of Him. And so I'll go into that deeper in a few moments. Oh, my laptop is getting hot. Excuse me. All right, so um, as I mentioned, my testimony is the works of God through my life in trusting in Him. And so my story is that, um, so most of you know me or have been following me. I have a brittle bone condition called osteogenesis imperfecta. And so, that really is just me breaking bones. What that is my bones are fragile and I break pretty easily. Um, Over the course of my life, I've probably broken 30 bones. Because I get that question all the time. How many bones have you broken? And, it's been about 30 bones, but I don't know. I estimate 150 to 200 times. I don't know. I feel like that's a big gap for me to estimate, just simply because I've lost count how many times I've broken my bones. But I've broken more often before puberty, so that there's some kind of distinction before puberty. People with OI, our bones are more fragile, and so I broke a lot more as a kid. Um, I remember being in the hospital or going to the hospital quite a bit. Learning to navigate the world as a child was very interesting just because, a kid always has to navigate. Normally, that's what kids do. And my childhood was different just because I had to be a little extra cautious about, venturing out into the world or the living room, which was my world, and so that was, it was unique, um, learning how to navigate the world. And then, I have a sister, a sibling. She, the way, like watching her navigate and learn the world, and just comparing and contrasting, like it was just very different for me than it would be for the average person. And so, I broke a lot more bones, as I mentioned, when I was a child. Um, but there was this resilience that I carried about me that was really, really amazing. And I'd say, like, yeah, the broken bones were challenging, but there was like a world that was going on that my world was so um, challenging in the way that, my parents, they split up when I was, I believe, 4 years old. And then their divorce finalized when I was 6. Prior to them separating, they just like all young couples who are struggling, um, there was a lot of like tension in the house from what I can recall. And so having brittle bones, and like I recall sometimes they would be in the midst of an argument, and I would break a bone, and then like it felt like that added to more chaos, or added more chaos to the chaos. And so um, I'll get to this later, but that really added to some things that I struggled with in my personality as an adult, with feeling like a burden at times. And so uh, navigating through that was more challenging than figuring out the broken bones and dealing with the pain of a broken bone. It was actually uh, emotionally challenging in that way. And so after they divorced, um, my parents, they dated other people, and um, I can recall my mom, she dated some men that were not always uh, the best, the kindest. And so I remember like there was this one guy um, who was not very kind, and to me, simply because I can remember his words like they happened yesterday. But thankfully, God's like worked in my life through various ways. But I can recall that like one of the things he said was um, that I wouldn't really amount to much, and it was during a really trying time of my life when I was going through spine surgery. Like I had this spinal fusion where I had scoliosis, and so um, things were, I guess, challenging for him. He wasn't used to having a handicapped son or a stepson, and so that was probably one of the most detrimental things growing up, like that I struggled with, like wondering if I was going to be able to overcome my challenges and if I were going to be able to be independent and live on my own. And so the cool thing is like the having that voice in the back of my mind throughout my adolescent years was something that um, pushed me forward. Um, I knew that after high school, I wanted to go to college, and I was gonna go out into the world, and I was like, I was not gonna let my condition hold me back. And so it was through that that guy, my mom dating or married that guy. I ended up going to live with my dad shortly after um, healing and recovering from my spine surgery. And so um, that was cool. Um, However, it was a new set of challenges too. My dad had just remarried, and he had um, uh, married a woman who also had just gotten her kids, like custody of her kids. And so we had two households coming together, and we were just navigating how to do life in a new setting. And that was challenging for me and my sister, and then also my step siblings. And so the house was chaos. And I remember, that was around the time that um, I developed like lust addictions. I mean, I'm going to keep it to that uh, just simply because I want to keep it age appropriate. But that was the way that I would cope. Um, and so then as I got older, I began to, want to get high and sorry, I wanted to drink as well, and um, I'm always trying to be cautious with how how old the people are watching this video, so I don't want to say too much, too. So with that said, um, I really started drinking quite a bit um, at a young age. And so it was my way of trying to figure things out, like coping with some turmoil in life and having split homes and broken bones. And so I can recall, like, when I started high school and I wanted to get into doing drugs, and like it was my way of being accepted or feeling like I was accepted. And so I can remember starting high school. It was the first day of school, and I went out to the bus stop out in front of my driveway, and I part ways with my sister, and she's going down to another bus stop, and so I go out and sit beside, my granddad's car, and I gotta tell you, like, it was crazy. So my granddad was a mechanic in the military, and he, uh, worked on cars like all the time. And so he was gonna like work on his car the day prior to me going out to the bus to like wait for the bus. And so he was about to work on his car, and the Lord told him not to work on his car, that he needed to leave his car, like leave it parked. I know, like, my dad was like annoyed at the time because the car had been sitting in our driveway for weeks, and so I was like, yeah, this would kind of be nice to get it out of the driveway too. It's kind of like in my way of the wheelchair a little bit. So I'm glad that the car was there, simply because the day that school started, um, I went out to wait for the bus, and I sat or parked my wheelchair right beside my granddad's car. And so as I'm waiting, it's a nice, bright, sunny day. The breeze is kind of nice early in the morning. And the next thing I know, there's uh, my neighbor pulling out of his driveway. He's a kid at the time, and he is driving his Jeep, and he starts swerving, and I'm not thinking much of it too much, simply because people would drive really fast on our road all the time. So I'm like, oh, this is just someone else driving nuts again. But then he started to get closer, and I turned my wheelchair on, and I was panicking. So electric, like power wheelchairs, they take a second to turn on. And I didn't give it long enough to turn on because I was going to move out of the way, but I didn't allow my chair to turn on. So I was panicking, and he swerved into our driveway and hit me while I was in my wheelchair, and pinned me between his Jeep and my granddad's car. And so I'm thankful that my granddad's car was there, simply because if it wasn't parked there, the Jeep would have ran me over, and I wouldn't be here today. And so, like, it's by God's grace that my pappy listened to the Lord in that moment. And so it was like really cool. But I remember when my neighbor got out of his Jeep, it was like he felt so bad. I could see the fear in his eyes, and I'm having all this. Like, I have some broken bones, not nearly as many as you would think, but I have broken bones, and he's like, Ricky Jr. Friends and family call me Ricky Jr. Back in West Virginia. So I'm like, Ricky Jr., You okay? I'm like, no. Uh, I mean, he was pretty tipsy at the time, or pretty drunk at the time. So uh, that was his first response. And then he was like, just apologetic. And I just told him to go get some help. Um, so that was a very pivotal moment in my life because in that moment, I survived something that really I shouldn't have survived. It's not doesn't make any sense because I've broken so many bones, and to have a jeep hit me at 40 miles an hour, um, yeah, wild. Like seriously, it slid me and my granddad's car like 3 feet sideways, and so yeah, very wild. Only the Lord could do something like that for real. And so, you would think that, yeah, like that would bring me to the Lord. But no, I ended up getting more into drinking and smoking. Um, and I was of age, so I would go to the clubs, um, the adult clubs at that time. And, it was me chasing acceptance and really wanting to figure life out on my own. And, thankfully, my dad and my granddad, they were uh, very influential in my life with regard to faith and, always having us go to church. And that was something very powerful growing up. So I knew of the Lord, and people prayed for me all the time whenever I would be hurt. And it was definitely an amazing thing. My mom, she would always remind me, and she still does to this day. Anytime that I'm hurt, uh, she's like, Ricky, pray, like pray. Um, just remember to pray, uh, and that's always comforting. So that's pretty cool. Um, but anyway, back to my story, or yeah, my story. Um, I didn't really come to faith right away, but I went further away from the Lord. And it was one day, I'm gonna say, I don't know, pr- I was hanging out with my brother, and I was smoking, and um, I was doing drugs, and um, I said to him, if I recall this correctly, I looked over at him. I was like, "Dude, I don't think I should be doing this right now. I don't know. Something just doesn't feel right. Uh, like I'm deceiving so many people. So many people don't think that I would be doing this." And I continued for a couple months doing that, and it was a slow progression where I saw myself going away from that. The Lord letting me know that I needed Him more and more. And I do remember getting baptized, and that was really cool. Um, I can't exactly tell you the day that I trusted the Lord, but I do remember it the day that the Lord really opened my eyes to see what was happening, you know? And so that is my story. My testimony is really that I trusted Christ. I saw that I needed Him, that I'm a sinner, that I was living apart from Him, and that all of my coping mechanisms were not filling. Coming to Christ didn't take away the struggles, um, but it gave me someone to lean on in the midst of my struggles. And so my testimony is that I trust Him all the time for my struggles. And so, as I made mention, like the feeling like a burden and things like that. So, having a broken home and broken bones, uh, it develops personality things in you, like some character or personality. I don't know if I could call it flaws, but having a broken home develops that in you. Um, Not just a broken home, but a dysfunctional home too. Um, it develops some uh, character struggles, personality struggles. And so those things are things that I have struggled with. And, I've gone to counseling and it's been amazing for the past couple of years. But I tell you all that because the important thing is that, I get this understanding that when people think that Christians try to, and maybe Christians do, I'm not going to deny this, but maybe Christians do put on this I'm perfect facade. Um, but no, we're trying to seek and pursue perfection. Um, though we won't get that until the day of the Lord's return. And so the cool thing as a Christian is like you are trusting that the Lord carried that on the cross for you. And it is freeing and comforting knowing that you have someone to lean on. You're never alone. The Lord says that He will never leave you nor forsake you. And so a lot of this suffering that I experienced, there's a passage that I want to read to you because it brings me a lot of joy. Because while, yes, I do have a disability and have dysfunction in life, we all have dysfunction to some extent. Um, I can see that one of my favorite passages is John 9, and it's verse 3, but I'm going to read 1, 2, and 3 so that you get the full context of it. And so it says, as he passed by, he saw a man born blind from birth, or blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, it was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. And so, like, I read that passage and I get joy because I can't tell you how many times. Okay, so it's not only the whole drunk driver hit me. There was a time that I was almost died on the operating table. I lost a lot of blood. And there were other times where I'm in the emergency room and the x-ray tech is like amazed by the fact that I'm not like in like screaming um, in excruciating pain or anything like that. But they're amazed, and it's been a really cool testament to the Lord in that way. And so I believe fully that I'm born this way, that I was born this way for God's glory. And my stories that I tell with Ricky Speaks Life, there's so much to tell you guys that if I were to tell you everything, it would be one super long video. So I attempt to do my best in breaking it all up for you guys. Um, Little cool pieces of wisdom that the Lord gives me. I try to remember to write it down to share it with you guys. But yeah, it's been a really cool journey. Not easy, but really cool. So there's satisfaction in that. And so, really, I want to come to you guys tonight with that testimony. It's a nutshell kind of testimony. I want to expand on it throughout the rest of the series. But I tell you that because I understand what it's like to be chasing and endless things that aren't filling. I understand what it's like to be up at nighttime, struggle sleeping, and then you sleep a lot during the day. Understand coping mechanisms, however that all works for you, whatever yours are. I understand that's rough. It really is. And I'll tell you what, leaning on Christ, trusting Him in the midst of whatever my struggles were and are, is so life giving and so fulfilling that you really need to experience it. There's a lot of freedom. And so, honestly, all you have to do is really just believe that Christ died for you on the cross for your sin. You have to confess that, yes, these are things I'm living in opposition to the Lord, and believe that He died for you, that He was buried and raised after 3 days in accordance to the scriptures. And so I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. A little bit longer video, you know, it's quite a bit longer, I'm sure. I don't even know. But let me ask you this, y'all. Have you guys ever heard someone's testimony? Have you shared your testimony? Would you be willing to share some of your testimony on in the comments below? Please share if you're comfortable. Um, and I'd encourage you, if you've not accepted Christ, you can do so. Just call on His name. And so, yes, thank you for tuning in, really. But in closing, I do want to remind you of the ultimate mission of Ricky Speaks Life, and that is that lives will be changed or touched by hearing of God's goodness through Jesus on the cross, and also providing wheelchairs or customized wheelchairs for people who aren't able to afford them. So, would you join me in continuing to create this avenue for those who don't know Jesus and also who can't afford a wheelchair? If so, would you please pray on supporting Ricky Speaks Life financially? And please like this video and Facebook page for updates and future videos to follow so you'll get notified. I hope that y'all have a great night, and I will see you next week.